Action items, discussion votes. Mr. Lewis, we need your A team. I think she's walking in the door. A discussion upon the request of Councilor Steiner, a discussion with the DPW regarding the collection bin program. Bob Lewis and Kate Ronconi, they have a PowerPoint to share with us, I believe. Bob is the director, and I believe Ms. Ronconi, her title is, are you Highway Superintendent? I know you do everything, but what is her exact title?
Director of Highway and Sanitation.
Director, okay, I was close. Okay, Director of Highway and Sanitation. Welcome both, and thank you for being here.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Mr. Steiner, Councilor Steiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention why I asked them, and thank you so much for sticking with us through this long meeting.
This is a first, 10 o'clock is all I'm going to tell you. I apologize.
For the last.
Yeah, no, it happened in the old days, and sometimes the meeting would just end.
Yeah, what a long
Departments would have to.
frequent thing back in the day.
I loved the city council back then. So in any case, 10 years ago, about give or take, town meeting approved a couple $1 million to start the tote program in Framingham, and the goals were around improved service and efficiency. And my experience, and I think of my neighbors, is that for the most part, we're seeing improved service. I think people like being able to throw mixed recycling in, and I remember the old days of bundling cardboard and all that. It was a big pain, so this is much easier. And I think for the most part, people are happy with it. A couple issues have come up that I'm hoping we can work together to try and address. One of them I know is kind of sporadic, but that's maybe new drivers moving quickly, and sometimes recycling gets dropped in the road. And then the other seems like a more tenacious problem, and that is folks who are not responsible neighbors and they just leave their totes out for several days, and or they don't even bring them back in at all. So I wanted to get an update on the program and whether we feel like we've achieved those goals of efficiency and better service, and then also whether you have any creative ideas on addressing those issues that have come up.
Well,
Mr. Lewis, let me just interrupt you 1 second. I apologize. Just for the city council, so everyone knows, an updated version was emailed to us from Framingham Sanitation. So we all have an updated version in your email, and I apologize. That got here. We got a new version, so I just wanted them to be on the same page as you. So thank you for being here, and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, in the spirit of time, I'm going to defer and pass the baton right to Kate, because she was here when that program started, and I was just a resident of town.
God bless her.
So I'm going to defer to Kate. We also have Darren Gerton, who's our operations manager at the RDC.
Welcome. Welcome. Welcome, Ms. Ronconi.
Good evening, good night.
I wish we were saying good night.
So I think I will certainly talk about the automated program as part of this. I didn't realize that was really solely your focus. So I'm just going to go through a very, very, very brief overview of the sanitation department, our operations. So the services that we provide, we obviously collect curbside trash, recycling. We tip about 30.
Into the mic, Kate, sorry.
Sorry, there's candy here, and I'm trying to stay.
Well, you know what, we gave you, have some.
Yourself to the can.
Have some. My daughter brought a box of 30 bars. I had a, that's another story, but we gave out candy tonight.
Feel free to help yourself.
Here's candy, help
Thanks.
yourself, folks.
So every week we collect 36,000 toters. We accomplish this by using our 4 automated side-loading trash trucks, and then we have 4 side-loading recycling trucks, and we have 20 routes every week that we collect with these trucks, and ideally we have 8 on the road every single day. Average weekly disposal cost per toter, so just quick calculations, this very rough average, just disposal costs, not overhead or labor, any of those things, but every tip, every time your trash toter is tipped, it's about $1.50, and recycling would be 50 cents just for disposal. We also service the condominiums in the city. There's 22 and 33 municipal and school buildings. We do all of that with a combination of private and in-house resources. And then, of course, the bulky item collection, which is at the recycling center and down at the, and picked up curbside, which has been an especially big challenge for us ever since the last few years, and COVID created some challenges with this, but this has at least doubled or tripled on a weekly basis for us. Tonnage, this is where I just sent out the most recent update. I apologize. Curbside trash, we're usually between 13 and 14,000 tons a year. This year, our unit pricing is $117 per ton for FY24. And so that brings us to about $1.6 million of anticipated spending on trash disposal this year. Curbside recycling is about 5,000 tons per year at a cost of $110 a ton, and about $500,000 for the FY24. And then we accumulate other sources of trash and recycling. Down at the RDC, we take in trash. The park department has disposal. We partner with people like Keep Framingham Beautiful, and we collect that material, trash receptacles, all sorts of other avenues of material, and then our segregated recycling commodities. So, I'm sorry, can you, I keep forgetting to tell you to move the slide along.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
say it, because the Zoom administrator, who's not here,
Okay.
offsite, is doing that. So just say it and she'll do it.
Okay, next slide. So tonnage trends, we've remained fairly consistent across the last 10 years. We saw a spike around the time when we had COVID and more people were at home, and that affected us. Maybe we have increased incrementally with automated recycling. So in FY11, we went to an automated recycling program. This was biweekly, and it was performed by a contractor. In FY16, we went to automated trash. FY17, we went to automated recycling with in-house resources, and we went to weekly service. So we doubled the recycling service that we were providing. We did not see a huge spike in, an increase in recyclable materials at that time, but it obviously increased services for the residents. Let me do the slide. So a little off topic from the automated program, but we are definitely seeing our unit prices increase. And I think we're not really seeing a change in this anytime soon. Ever since the national sword policy in China in about 2018-19, and that's just changed the industry going forward. The yard waste and events that we hold, in addition to the recycling center, where we sell about 6,000 permits a year. We have the Dudley Yard Waste Facility, which is open 36 weekends per year. We do curbside collection of material, 3 weeks of brush, 7 weeks of leaves, holiday trees, and then we hold our 2 hazardous waste day events, a shred fest and electronic recycling event every year. We're working through a process with the Dudley Road facility, with the DEP for a formal closure. And this is just some monitoring and getting DEP guidance on how we're going to perform that final closure, and we're in the process of. So we're not quite there yet on how that's going to work out. The next slide. The Massachusetts waste ban. I think most people know that there's a waste ban in Massachusetts preventing us from throwing away material like recyclables, appliances, tires, TVs, construction debris. We had some new waste ban items added to the state in November of last year, and this included mattresses, box springs, textiles, some food material from, depending on the amount, from businesses, institutions. The mattresses, we were already taking in mattresses and recycling them ahead of time, and we just added box springs to that program, so that was the biggest impact for us. And the future of Massachusetts solid waste. Really, DEP is driving the boat on this. There's a solid waste master plan with the goal to reduce disposal in Massachusetts by 30% by 2030 and by 90% by 2050. So what's happening now is the landfills are reaching capacity, and there's very little opportunity for expansion, and there's no new trash to energy plants coming online. There are some landfills that are expanding, but that's not really increasing capacity. So what we're doing in Framingham is really looking for opportunities that are the right fit for Framingham. How do we find waste diversion that makes sense for us, and how do we make it work into our program? How do we use our tools like outreach, education, inspections for contamination, and try to keep our contamination down in our recycling stream? We are very lucky to have a new recycling coordinator. She was with us a little bit earlier this evening. But Eve Carey, who is a native Framingham resident, has started working with us, and we're really excited to kind of get back into all that education outreach and explore some new opportunities with her. So, like I said, very brief. If you have any questions, Darren Gurton is also here, the operations manager for the sanitation division. And in terms of automation, I think it's been a great program for us. There's definitely been some challenges. I think we've gotten a lot of calls. The most frequent one is probably the cardboard isn't coming out of the toter. It's just one of the idiosyncrasies of grabbing the card a certain way. But we handle all the complaints. I think we have a great customer service team. When we have the opportunity, we go back and we grab the material, use the opportunity to educate people on what they can do better and how we can work better with everybody. So I certainly think it's a success. Excuse me.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And in my experience with, any debris or if a house is missed, is you guys are amazing about getting back and taking care of that. So I appreciate that. And it's rare that things are falling out. I did want to get to the question of totes not being brought in because it's a small problem, but it can drive people insane. And I think it seems very dry in this room. It seems like everybody's. I'm just wondering, is there a policy around that if a homeowner is abusing the privilege of having that tote and driving their neighbors nuts? And if not, has there been discussion about putting that in place?
So for us, we've worked with residents that have had this issue, and we try to monitor the situation, make sure there's no, sometimes there are resident disputes, and that's more of an issue. We've dealt with that with, neighborhood tree issues or things like that. But we've certainly worked with residents to try to do our part in making sure the toters are out of the right of way. And we'll monitor for that if an issue comes to our attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Ronconi, for a very comprehensive and complete presentation. And I, too, would be remiss if I didn't say what a spectacular job the men and women in your department do, picking up, following up, and collecting. That said, as I look at these, and I'm going to leave the conversation to the Finance Committee as we proceed, clearly trash is going to be not only an environmental concern, reaching the 2030 goal and the trajectory we're going in is going to require a huge amount of focus and effort. And I think we need to, the mayor is going to come back and talk to us in October and November, and we'll deal with that. But to me, part of this is looking at how do we increase education, and the young lady who you have doing that is doing a spectacular job. She's a bundle of energy and knowledge, and I think that's important. Energize Framingham does a good job, but so much more needs to be done in terms of just education. And I would suggest anything you can do to get that message out is helpful. Second is dealing with composting. And I know we do it where we live and we're aggressive about it, but there's so much more that can be composted and we can deal with to take things out of the waste stream, to take our trend line on slide 4 from going up to level to bringing it down to the 30% reduction you're looking at in 2030, which is only a few short years away in terms of our ability to do that. And lastly, I think an idea that the Environmental Committee looked at, that I know you were very aggressive about with your committee, was a swap shop in terms of how you take and find things and get them to be reused for people or not. And all I'm saying is I think we need to, over the next couple of years in our budget process, really be pretty aggressive about being creative and thinking about what's our investment, or we'll never achieve a 30% reduction by 2030. And I think that's going to require us to do some capital investment, change the way we do business a little bit, and think about tipping fees. Because they're looking at the tipping fees costs on slide 6. The tonnage for recycling, we're not saving, the differential is, more money.
It's about the same, give or take. So something has to give. Anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Councilor Malik, then Councilor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all your work on this. I have a couple of questions. The first, the Dudley Road facility, can you give a timeline a little bit on the closure?
So right now, we're kind of in between steps 2 and 3. We've been waiting for some comment from DEP for quite a while, and we're finally progressing on that. So those steps will all lead us towards what it will design and construction and cost and time frame all be, but we just don't have those answers quite yet because we're still, in the research phase of things.
Right, so I was recently, I think they were in front of conservation, maybe about digging test holes, right? So the plan is to cap that facility, is that correct? Yeah, Mayor is nodding. So simultaneously, we're looking for another site here in Framingham, or the mayor's going to answer that?
That was a problem I was going to point out, that I believe the timeline right now is about 2027 to cap it, which means after that date, we will no longer be able to use it for leaf or brush dumping, and we need to find another alternative, either trucking it out of town and paying for it, or out of the city, or finding another site in the city to do that. And I know the DPW director has been looking at different sites already, and we're just going to have to keep working at that until we come up with a viable alternative. But 2027 isn't that far away.
Agreed. Yeah. Excellent, thank you. So my next question, I know that other municipalities that do outsource are starting to sign 5-year contracts instead of 3-year contracts for waste hauling, and I don't know if when we're negotiating tipping fees, like, is there any room, looking at the escalating costs of waste, is there any way to, in some way, give us some sense of what the increase is going to be for us?
So beyond, we're currently in the first year of a 3-year contract. I think 3-year gets close to 130 a ton. The company that we work closely with 2 companies, E.L. Harvey in Westboro and Waste Management in their transfer stations in Marlboro that we go to. Logistically, we're kind of tied towards where these companies are. And Waste Management takes their material from Marlboro to their Fitchburg landfill. And we've really been dependent on whether or not that would get DEP approval for an expansion, which I believe they're still working on. But like I said, these expansions don't increase capacity. It just is kind of status quo. So beyond those 3 years, we can certainly look at, longer, the 5-year contracts, depending on the state of things. But that's kind of why I believe last year we had just executed a 1-year contract, because we were looking at kind of reserving our space with Waste Management, because it was kind of a crisis at that point. But yeah, the 3-year contract or the 5-year contract would give us a little bit better long-term plan.
Thank you. My next question is, do you at all know, I hear about rejection rates of recycling based on contamination. Do we ever get any feedback about contamination or rejection rates of our recycling?
No. So all of our recycling goes to E.L. Harvey in Westboro. They have a 15% threshold, but we have never had an issue with our loads getting rejected there.
Because we're awesome. And then I guess I'll just echo the need for food waste diversion and getting that out of our waste stream, so we're not sending the food to the landfills and taking up that space, and like municipalities around us, to get an RFP out for another company as soon as possible to move that process forward.
I believe the pilot program with the school department started today.
At Dunning.
At Charlotte Dunning,
Very
yes.
exciting to see that pilot, yeah.
All set, Councilor Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the thoughtful insight and everything you do and all the wonderful things that my colleagues have said. I echo them enthusiastically. One thing that you don't have to comment on necessarily tonight unless you'd like to, over the years, we seem to have inherited some collection practices from some of the larger service providers. There is a policy on this. I think if it's more than 4 units in the building, we're not supposed to collect, or we're supposed to collect with a fee. I know just enough about this matter at 10:15 at night to cause a little trouble in bringing it up. That's why maybe it's something you could look into. But I believe there is a cost that has crept up over time, and I think some of those entities are now really, for lack of a better term, commercial enterprises and should be, according to policy, having non-municipal waste collection. It's been an ongoing thing. I hear about it from time to time. It's probably something you're on top of, but if you could look into that just to make sure we're in compliance and there aren't entities, commercial entities or otherwise taking advantage of resident services that aren't intended for entities like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So you're referring purely to apartments and not the condominiums?
I think apartments are part of the issue, but I hear about some of the larger, I don't want to say nonprofits because I think that's unfair, but I think they are, that are operating perhaps group homes or entities like that, if you could just take a look at that and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do and they're doing what they're supposed to do, because I think there's been some lapse there. Terrific, thank you.
Anybody else on this side? Council Lambrino, then Councilor Stuart Morales.
Just wanted to say thanks, Kate. I know it's late. You guys have been here a long time, and it was a great presentation. And Bob, you guys have been really good meeting with the environmental subcommittee. We've talked about some things. The problem is, like, every time we talk about something and it's on the front burner, then something else comes up, and then it kind of gets pushed back to the back burner. And it's like the ideas are there. It's just getting them to fruition. It's getting the manpower. We went out and we looked at a couple of sites, took a little road trip earlier in the year, and we did get to see some of these sites in other communities. There's one in Falmouth. I've been kind of checking them out all around the state, and the number one challenge though is staffing. And they tend to close for staffing when they can't get staffing. So I definitely want to meet with the new recycling guru who I know was here earlier, and we did make a plan to meet up. But with some of the logistics that we can work through, finding a dedicated place, getting people that will be part of a team that can say we can volunteer, and then it's Bob, the issue for you is trying to find, you can't take people's junk. So that's where then it becomes a problem, and where these things, they're easier said than done. And I think that, I know that we talked about having another meeting, getting together, but I think we could start to revisit this. Hopefully we'll have a slow fall with some stuff, and maybe we can, look to maybe do something in the spring, like even for a pilot is what we had talked about. And I think it's something to look forward to, but for the people that I talked to about it, they think it's a great idea. And the problem is the underlying issues that come up. And when you talk to communities that are doing it, you can really see that it can really be a challenge, because, you basically are taking people's junk for free that then you have to get rid of. So lots of moving parts, but I'm willing to, have that meeting that we, had planned, and maybe we could meet with some of the, especially the new woman. Is it Leah? What's her name?
It's Eve Carey.
Eve, that's right. She was wonderful. We met her at the climate meeting that we had a couple weeks back, and so we're going to have a meeting, and maybe we can try to set up for that pilot, and maybe in the spring. So thanks for that.
Councilor Stuart Morales. Mr. Lewis, do you want to address that? Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we kept you late enough, and
Give Kate a break.
we're on number 11 on a 28 number agenda. 28 numbers.
I just want to say, in relation to the tour swap shop, that program needs someone that's going to champion that. And my experiences are, we had volunteers in my past employment, had some volunteers to take lead, and they had a sheriff to watch that, figuratively sheriff, to make sure that it didn't take the junk. But like they say, one person's junk is another person's treasure. Right? So there is value in it, and I see where Framingham could actually benefit from it. But the challenge is trying to find the site, to do that without constraining any other public works sites right now. So I think we need to find some property for composting. We need to find some property for swap shops. Maybe it could be one and the same.
So we'll look.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Anybody? Councilor Stuart Morales.
Thank you. I just have a follow-up on composting. So I appreciated that overview of kind of how things have evolved and our recycling efforts increased. It seems like with some of the challenges that we have, that composting is like a natural solution in, to reducing our waste stream, and it's also just, it's here now. Like, that's what communities are doing. That's what people are doing. So what is Framingham doing? Right. I know we're going to have a task force, but why do we need the task force? Why hasn't there been more movement internally? Like, what are the challenges?
Well, I can go back to when I first started here. I heard and I learned that the Dudley Road facility needs to be closed. The goal is 2027. That may move 1 or 2 years, depending on what the findings are. But my challenge, I took on the challenge of trying to get rid of the leaves and the yard waste, to find a spot for that. What can go along with that is introducing food waste into the leaves and the yard waste. That'll accelerate the composting process, which you can make a product that you could turn into revenue. You could sell that product as loam or just straight as compost. It needs to be worked. It needs to be some capital investments. But the challenge, as we said here, is trying to find some space to do that. I need about 6 to 7 acres in order to have a robust composting operation to take in the volume of leaves that Framingham generates on a yearly basis. So it's about a 2.5, 3 year process to actually compost the leaves and turn it into a product that you could market. You can accelerate that product by introducing some food waste into it. I would recommend that you keep meat byproducts and things like that out of it, because that's going to attract vermin in an open area. But those could be separated. There is a ways to do it. We just need to figure that out.
How does programs like the Black Earth composting, companies that do this, like I've seen other communities that partnered with these kinds of companies, how does that fit? Could that be some temporary solution, or how does it, like, could we use that in the plan?
Well, we do use Black Earth. We've taken out some of our leaves there. They're one of our vendors that we dispose of our leaves. We have in our budget, we have about $180,000 in our operating budget just to dispose of leaves. My proposal is to take that money, invest it in some capital equipment, and then turn that composting into revenue that we could sell down the road. Now you got to find a person to buy it, but there are people out there to buy that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Councilor Malik.
I just want to maybe offer some clarifying points, Councilor Morales, that might help. When you talk about composting, so there's food waste diversion, getting food out of the waste stream, right? And then you can compost leaves without any food, right? So arguably we are composting currently on the Dudley Road facility. So it's thinking about getting the food waste out, and the way many other municipalities have done it is they have put out a bid for food waste collection independent, and then a company would get that and do the residential collection. And I would be remiss if I didn't add that residents can also sign up for that pickup on their own right now. And because of some advocacy from Framingham residents, we recently reached a threshold in which all residents pay less. The way the contract works for Black Earth for individual collection, not via DPW, but is that when there's a critical mass in a municipality of a certain amount of money, of a certain amount of residents, then the cost goes down for all of the residents. So there are residents who have advocated to get that cost down for everybody. And then, as was mentioned also, and I don't know if this factors in, but Dunning School is running a pilot program currently of food waste collection, and it's a big volunteer lift there to make that happen. So, and I'm sure staff also very much appreciate their work on that. So I don't know if that's helpful, but when we talk about composting, and then I'll just also add that when you do food waste collection and food waste diversion, it doesn't necessarily go into making soil. There are increasingly other options. Ms. Ronconi mentioned the waste to energy stream, and that is another waste stream for food waste that is in process of being developed.
Council's all set before I go to Council Steiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you again for coming out. Just a couple other things I wanted to offer. One, we exchanged some emails about maybe doing some vinyl stickers on the totes, just reminding people of what can go in recycling versus trash. I've seen some other communities that have done that because, the writing that's on there is fading anyway. So I hope you'll take another look at that as a possibility. And then the other thing is I hope we can all advocate to our state delegation, food waste that's in black plastic, takeout containers that's in styrofoam, pretty much is going to end up in the landfill. And we need, I know there's reluctance, to do things on our own as a city, but statewide, we should be banning styrofoam at this point, given all the circumstances out there, and black plastic, which can't be recycled. And so I hope that we'll all work together to try and make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Going out to the audience, Ms. McCarthy first.
Thank you, Kathy McCarthy, District 3, previously District 6. Thank you so much, and thank you, Kate, as well. I think sometimes people, they don't tip the bucket very well. Maybe new folks coming through in the truck. And I must say, anytime people say that they call DPW to let them know half of the stuff is still there, they come right out. So I thank them that. The other thing was regarding Councilor Steiner's comment about people not bringing their stuff in. I recall way back when we did this through town meeting, and we had a lot of discussions and meetings beforehand, but I believe there was written up that you had to have them in by a certain time, because for accessibility on the sidewalks and stuff, it makes a big difference, and that was brought up back then. So if we look back at those different regulations that we passed way back when, we can maybe find something. But it definitely should be, because it shouldn't be in the public way of the sidewalks or coming in driveways in turnarounds. The other thing was, if in fact I hear that Lee Road is going to be stopped, and it's a little concerning when I hear that they're finding a place, and I just hope before they find a place to replace it, there's an active public hearing and active outreach to those of us who might be affected. And the other thing about this, when we started with the recycling and everything, we had engaged the schools so much. And I think we can do a better job at maybe even having a game between schools. How do we do things like this to educate the kids and get them excited about it. Also, you talk about a swap shop, but on Framingham Facebook pages, we have you can get things free, or they put it out there. And I think maybe that's another aspect that you can advertise. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Yes, ma'am.
This is why I'm here. Diana Porter on Palmer Road, and I am part of Energize Framingham. I joined them a year and a half ago specifically to get more people composting, because it is so important to me, and many of you have heard me speak, and I want to thank all of you who have been supporting this. The thing about composting, food waste diversion, is it will get us to that 2030 goal. 40% of household trash is food waste. So simply by taking a robust approach towards diverting that food waste, we will be at that 2030 goal, and we could do that now. If we send out an RFP and we start a food waste collection curbside composting program in Framingham, we could do that right now with existing resources. And yes, it will cost some money, but there is so many grants out there from the state, from the EPA, and from the USDA. Other communities, including Boston, have been taking a hold of this and have been moving it forward. In Natick alone, we have currently 365 families signed up with Black Earth Compost. Energize Framingham has been going out pounding the pavement to educate people, and we have increased that number by 37% in this year and a half. But the town of Framingham could do so much more. Natick has over 2,000 people doing it, and that's without funding a program. If we applied for grants and got this program in place, we wouldn't be wasting the years between now and when we could be composting in-house. We can do this now. We just need to get moving on it. We have tons of information that we've been collecting at Energize Framingham. We are more than happy to help with any grant writing and to share our information with anyone who's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Gerd.
So I'd just like to offer a suggestion to the folks at home that may be experiencing the recyclables coming outside of the truck and making it into the street. So when you think about that, we have some awesome recyclers in town, and they're filling the carts all the way up. And with trash is bagged, so you don't have that problem because nothing can get out of the bag. On a windy day, when a recycling cart is filled all the way up, I mean, we have some awesome drivers too, and it's all about service, and we don't want to leave the carts behind. So they're doing everything they can to make sure that collection is done. So when you are thinking about bagging recyclables, think about it with a paper bag. That could help some of that loose material from getting out of the cart or out of the truck as it's driving down the street. So that just might be something we could suggest to the folks at home. You can loosely bag the recyclables in a paper bag, not a plastic bag, but paper bag, and that could help with the collection. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. We lost Zoom here, so I'm going back on Zoom.
There's a gentleman in the front row.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Name and address for the record, and I'm just trying to get us back on.
Good. My name's Howard Ostrager, Pleasant View Terrace in Framingham. Just a quick work on the recycling trash program. They do a wonderful job picking up the trash, recyclables, no complaints whatsoever. I just think there needs to be a place posted online what the rules are for people leaving out their trash, what time to leave them out, what time to bring them back in, and what happens if you don't. Just what happens. It reminds me of a story with my son. What would you do? What if everybody left their trash cans out all the time? What would you do? That's why I'm going to leave it with that, because it's been a neighborhood problem with mine. A few different neighbors, then it catches on. One person sees one neighbor leaving it out 2 days, comes 3, 4. Next thing you know, they're being left out all week. So the town doesn't look good when there's trash cans out. Drive around town, you only see about 10% of people with them out. And it's not the trash collector's problem, it's the homeowners. There needs to be some way to communicate to the community and why it's important to bring in your trash cans for accessibility as well as for safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and sharing. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Very quick, Brigitte Griffin, District 8, Framingham. The thing with the bagging recycled is not allowed. I talked to the recycling people from the city. You cannot bag any recycles because at the facility they don't open bags because they don't have time for that. It's a rolling thing, so you cannot bag any recycles. They always will fly out because that's how the recycling works with they call it the mark. No paper bag, not even a paper bag, nothing. No bags, no shredded paper. No black plastic, like you said, all that stuff. This is all education, and we don't know a lot of things about recycling. So education with our new great recycling coordinator would help a lot to get more effective in recycling. Thank you.
I think that's part of the problem, too. I think there's more education, because some people think you can use bags, some people don't think you can use bags. You know, I know some houses recycle 2 days a week, and the other 5 they don't. So, we need to get everybody on the same program. But can you bag the stuff? No, no bags. Are you allowed to put, plastic wrap from your dry cleaner in the recycling? There's a lot of unknowns. I'm telling you, people ask me, I don't know. I got to be honest with you, I don't know. So when I'm not sure, it goes in the trash, but I know what I think we can recycle, because we fill both barrels every week, and there's only 3 people living in the house, so it is what it is.
Councilor Ottaviani, there's something called the Recyclopedia.
Is there?
Yeah, it's called the Recyclopedia.
Send me a text on it, and I'll get
You
on
look it up, and you can put stuff in. It's
Okay,
pretty good.
Believe me, I need all the help I can get. I'm a lot better than I ever was, because we fill that bucket up, let me tell you, every week.
Inspiration,
And then,
Mr. Chairman.
in all fairness to Ms. Ronconi, one day the bucket didn't get picked up, the recycling. They were there. They're great. That department responds. They are terrific.
Are you bringing your trash barrels in promptly at the end?
I absolutely
I
do.
don't
Well,
wanna hear
listen,
about these
hey, let me tell you about
monsters that are
trash
leaving the
barrels.
trash barrel.
I know where he's coming from, okay?
All the time,
Because
it's
that's
a
a
problem.
pet peeve of mine. But now, hopefully, we're going to be all set, because I won't see them all stacked out in front of Maycomber at Stillmeadow anymore, because now they're picking up the trash and they're recycling.
Let the
But
word
I gotta
go
tell you,
forth.
mine go in and mine go out like they're supposed to, okay? And I got a guy, they don't even cut the grass. I got my own guy cutting the grass in front of the
Very
stone wall.
defensive
just
about
so it
bringing
looks
the
all right.
trash barrels.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing none. I need a motion to continue. We need a motion to continue after 10. We have a motion to continue after 10. We have a second. If you vote yes, we continue. If you vote no, we go home.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, Mr. King.
So it is 10:35. This has been a lengthy agenda, and, this has been a great presentation we just had, very interesting, very informative. It's unfortunate it happened at 9:55 at night. So, we have other important things in this agenda. Our rules have a hard stop at 11 o'clock, so even in the middle of a discussion at 11 o'clock, we have to stop. So I think we should consider not continuing to move on. I know people want to keep going, but I think the decision-making of important events after 10:30 at night becomes a little challenging.
I wholeheartedly agree. And the next agenda is very, very, very light. There's not a lot on it. But is there anything that's left on this agenda, Ms. Miller, that you need done tonight? That's my question to you. Because then what we'll do, well, listen, you know what? We've been here all night too, so we'll be back again, same time, same place, Tuesday.
It's mainly referrals that you can.
I can do referrals in 3 minutes while you're looking. You want me to, let me.
Great idea.
Time out. Ms. Bryan,
Excuse
yes.
me, I did have a question that is very important on this issue,
On the recycling?
on the recycling.
You don't want to call him tomorrow and ask him, you want to ask him
No,
now?
I do not.
Okay, be my guest, ask it now.
So the question is, in my neighborhood, because it's private, we don't get the blue bins, we don't get anything like that. But in terms of can there be a program in Framingham to for the composting and for recycling that would actually help, the town do better, because our neighborhoods could then, participate more in it? And can someone come down and look at the area and perhaps think about ways that maybe we could get on that compost program, or how we could be a part of that? Because a lot of trash goes to waste.
I apologize. I don't know where you live, so
She's
I don't
over
know.
off Pelham, down by Interfaith, and she says it's all dumpsters.
Is it all private collection?
Yeah, Interfaith is private, so yeah, and we can't afford, big, recycling dumpsters or whatnot. And then people aren't gonna go all the way out there a lot of times, so they just dump everything in the dumpsters we have, so.
So we don't facilitate anything with the private collection. There's certain, Councilor Cannon mentioned, size housing that we don't service. So we do anything over 4 units, we don't service, and then we get into condominiums. And we face it ourselves with residential trash, we face it with the condominiums. The contamination's a huge issue. But as for.
Okay, so it is what it is, the same. So right now, we will not be recycling at all. So we're only contributing to the problem. So.
Right, and it is a Massachusetts law. The waste ban is a law, that essentially you cannot dispose of recyclable materials in the trash.
We have, that, it is what it is, right? You can say that, but you can't even police everybody, They're gonna, the space is limited, and then they go out there. We had one recycle bin, but unfortunately, the woman bought it for paper and not for, the former manager for paper instead of plastic like we voted on. So, I don't know. I'll keep looking into it or whatever, and the composting would be great, but again, we need to get in the cycle. Somebody would have to pick it up, or we'd have to deliver it somewhere else. I don't know.
Right, the food waste becomes a little bit more of a challenge because it's not just established companies that perform trash and recycling disposal services. We're looking at newer companies and a lot more challenges with food waste. If it doesn't get collected, what are the repercussions?
Yeah.
So there are a lot more issues there.
We'll just have to wait till we get some.
The hour being 20 minutes of 11, we got a couple issues. Number 16, we have to vote on number 16 or we lose the grant. That's number 1. Number 2, I got referrals that are going to take me all of 5 minutes, not even, so that we can still have an appointment subcommittee. So if Mr. King or somebody can make the motion. We first have to vote on 10 PM. which
Right,
is
but
already made.
I'll move we amend that motion to say we will go past 10 PM, only to do number 16 in the.
And the referrals.
Second.
So we got a motion and a second, so that's all we're going to do, is we're going to do the referrals, and we're going to vote 16 so we don't lose the grant. Roll call vote, Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Long.
Yes.
Counselor Cannon.
Yes.
Counselor Malik. Counselor Stein.
Yes.
Stephanie. Yes.
Yes.
Liam Bruno. Counselor King.
Yes.
Counselor Bryant. And Counselor Stuart Morales.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start with number 16. Number 16, Order 2023-093, upon the request of the mayor, recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee to accept the U.S. Department of Justice grant totaling $919 and authorize the appropriation of the grant for community policing.
So moved.
So this was an issue that came to the Finance Subcommittee tonight, and a direct referral from the chairman. It was not on the previous agenda. The grant is what it states it is for community policing, so the committee's recommendation is we do it, and I would so move.
Second.
I got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Long.
Yes.
Counselor Cannon.
Yes.
Counselor Malik.
Yes.
Counselor Steiner.
Yes.
Counselor Stefanini.
Yes.
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 Liam Bruno. Counselor King. Counselor Bryant.
Yes.
And Counselor Stuart Morales.
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
No, we're going to do the referrals first. So we should have our
referrals.
finance. Did you hear his motion that we voted on? Okay. All right. Number 19, Order 2023, upon the request of the mayor, consideration to support the placement, we're not doing that one either. Upon the request of the public safety transfer, okay, upon the request, Order 2023-090, upon the request of the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Subcommittee, referral to the Ordinance and Rules Subcommittee for procedures and methods of locating needle exchange programs. No objection. It is referred to Stefanini's committee. 21, Order 2023-008-073. Upon the request of the mayor, refer to the Appointment Subcommittee. The consideration of the reappointment of constables Paul Kelly, Elizabeth Fuller, and Lorraine Dos Santos through 2026. No objection. It's referred. Order 2023-008-078. Upon the request of the mayor, refer to the Appointment Subcommittee. The reappointment of Eng Chow, District 6, Register of Voters, Republican, June of 2026. No objection. It is referred. Order 2023-008-079. Upon the request of the mayor, refer to the Appointment Subcommittee. The appointments and the reappointment to members of various boards, commissions through June of 2026. Linda Levitt, District 6, Council on Aging, an appointment. Robert Ansbach, District 7, Human Relations Commission, reappointment. Ray Lemaine, District 2, Police Advisory Committee, appointment. Jeff Johnson, District 9, Planning Board, reappointment. Thomas Bew, District 4, Planning Board, reappointment. No objection. They are referred. I got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. No, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion by Liam Bruno, second by Stefanini. Roll call vote. Counselor Alexander.
Big long
Counselor Long.
yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Cannon. Counselor
Yes.
Malik. Counselor Steiner. Counselor Stefanini.
Yes.
Ottaviani.
Yes.
Counselor Liam Bruno. Counselor King. Counselor Bryant.
Yes.
Counselor Stuart Morales. And Counselor Alexander. I don't know if I voted for you
I didn't
twice.
need any of the Twixes, Mr. Chair.
That's yours. Take them home.